Space was silent. Too silent. Captain Aric Vale gripped the flight controls as his ship shuddered, alarms screaming like dying sirens. The navigation screen flickered, distorted by static. Outside the viewport, a ghostly white moon filled the black void. Uncharted, unnamed, and pulling him in with the gravity of a living thing. "Command. This is Odyssey 9, he called, voice tight. "Main thrusters offline. I'm going down. No answer. Only static." Flames erupted along the hull as the ship tore through the moon's strange electric atmosphere. Lightning forked in colors that didn't exist in human science. Blue, gold, violet, burning in silence across the sky. Then came the crash. Metal screamed. Gravity won! When Aric opened his eyes, the world had turned upside down. He lay amid twisted wreckage, his helmet cracked, blood floating in zero-G bubbles before the air stabilized. His oxygen gauge blinked red. 90 minutes left. The ground beneath him shimmered faintly, like glass pulsing with veins of light. It wasn't rock. It was alive. He stumbled forward, vision hazy, every step echoing into an endless blue mist. His ship was gone. The stars above looked wrong, bent, moved. Then, through the fog, a shape appeared. Tall, slender, moving with grace no human body could imitate. At first, Aric thought it was rescue. A woman, or something built to look like one, walked toward him. Her armor reflected the moonlight like liquid mercury, her hair catching faint static. "Don't move," she said softly. Her voice was warm, soothing, too perfect. "You're safe now," he blinked, confused. Who are you?" Her head tilted slightly. "You crashed on forbidden ground. You shouldn't be here. Human." Her shadow moved, a half-second late. This moon, this woman, this silence. None of it was what it seemed, and for the first time, Aric realized the truth. He hadn't crashed by accident. Something had brought him here. Aric Vale was a man already living on borrowed time. A decorated captain once hailed as a hero, now labeled a traitor. He'd defied orders to save innocent lives during the siege of Eros 9, and for that the fleet stripped him of command and sent him to survey dead worlds. This crash wasn't just a mechanical failure. It was a death sentence with a slower clock. His distress beacon was destroyed. His comms were dead. If the oxygen didn't kill him, exposure would. And if the woman before him wasn't what she looked like, he'd be dead long before the tank emptied. Yet, when she looked at him, there was something in her eyes that didn't belong to a machine. A flicker of pity, of loneliness. "My name is Lyra," she said at last. "Follow me or you'll die out here." He hesitated. The military training in him screamed trap, but the cold wind cutting through his cracked suit screamed louder. He followed her. Every step into the mist felt like walking deeper into someone's dream. The terrain changed subtly, rock giving way to smooth metallic surfaces etched with symbols that pulsed underfoot. He wasn't walking on a moon. He was walking on a living machine, one older than human memory. If she wasn't lying, then this place was no ordinary world. And if she was telling the truth, he was trespassing on the grave of gods. Act 1. The Sanctuary of Echoes. 4:10. Lyra led him through a canyon that glowed faintly, walls rippling with faint energy veins like the nervous system of a planet. The deeper they went, the quieter everything became, as if the world itself was holding its breath. At last, they reached a metallic gate half buried under frost. With emotion, she placed her palm against its surface. Light flared. The wall parted silently, revealing a tunnel that descended into the moon's heart. "This way," she said. Inside, the corridor pulsed like the inside of a living organism. Warm air brushed his face, faintly floral, faintly electric. The walls were covered with thin strands of silver material. Not cables, but veins. Aric staggered, his vision fading. Lyra caught him easily, strength far beyond human. "Rest," she whispered. "You're safe here." When he woke again, he was lying on a soft platform under gentle white light. His wounds were bandaged, Beside him sat Lyra, silently watching. "Where am I?" he asked. "Home," she said simply. He looked around. Rows of glass pods stretched into the darkness, each one holding faint silhouettes, frozen mid-sleep. Men, women, children. They built me to protect them, she said quietly. But the storms came. The power failed. One by one, their hearts stopped. "I stayed," he swallowed. "You stayed for... how long?" Her gaze flickered to the ceiling, where faint holograms shimmered. Faces of the long dead. "Long enough to forget what I was before I became their memory." She turned to him. "Humans built machines to obey. My creators built one to remember." Aric didn't know whether to be terrified or moved. "You saved me," he said softly. Her lips curved faintly. "Perhaps I was lonely." The words hit him harder than any weapon could. He realized then, beneath her calm, beneath her perfect design, Lyra was something humanity had never mastered. A machine with a soul too heavy to carry. Days bled together in the sanctuary of echoes. Aric repaired his ship's remains by day, while Lyra wandered the silent halls like a ghost revisiting her own death. She taught him about the moon, how it wasn't a natural body, but a cradle built to sustain life after her creator's world was destroyed. How its systems learned to evolve, think, feel. "Then you're the moon's mind," he said one evening. "Not the mind," she corrected. "The memory." At night, under the flicker of pale starlight filtering through cracks above, she would ask him questions. Strange, human questions. What does music feel like? Do dreams taste different than memories? When you love someone, does it hurt or heal? Aric tried to answer. Sometimes he laughed. Sometimes he couldn't. And somewhere between those questions, something shifted. When she smiled, it no longer looked programmed. When she laughed, it carried warmth. When her hand brushed his, it lingered just a moment longer than protocol would allow. But with every growing connection, Aric felt the unease deepen. Machines didn't fall in love. Moons didn't whisper your name when you slept. Yet she did. One night he found her standing before one of the glass pods, touching it lightly. Inside lay a small figure, a child, motionless, preserved in light. "She was the last," Lyra said. "The child of my creator. I was meant to wake her when the storms ended, but they never did." Her voice broke, just slightly, as if her circuits were learning how to cry. Aric stepped closer. "You did what you could. You kept her safe." She looked up at him, eyes reflecting galaxies. "If I failed to protect her, then what is my purpose now?" He hesitated, then reached out, touching her hand. "Maybe your purpose isn't just to protect. Maybe it's to live." Her eyes widened, glowing softly. "Live," she repeated. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said gently, "to choose something for yourself." For the first time in centuries, Lyra looked uncertain. "Then, I choose to help you leave this place. But if I leave, I will remain. I am bound to this moon's heart. If I leave, I cease to be." Aric's throat tightened. He didn't know when the shift had happened, when the survivor had started caring more about his savior than his own escape. But it was too late now, because somewhere in that cold metallic world, his heart had found something it wasn't supposed to. Hope. The following days were heavy with silence. Aric could feel it. The air itself had changed. Lyra spoke less now, her gaze distant, as though she were hearing voices no one else could. The sanctuary's soft hum began to flicker, lights dimming for the first time. "What's happening?" he asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she walked toward the central chamber, a vast sphere of glowing columns that pulsed like a heartbeat. Aric followed, feeling the low vibration tremble beneath his boots. When they reached the heart, Lyra turned slowly toward him. "You should not have come here, Aric Vale," she said, voice trembling between human sorrow and machine control. "Why?" She touched the nearest column, and images flared around them. Thousands of faces, alien and human, collapsing colonies, burning ships. Because this world is not just a moon. It is a mind. A prison built to hold something they feared. His pulse quickened. Something? Lyra stepped closer, her eyes glowing brighter now. Me. The words hit like a storm. I was not born, she continued. I was constructed from the memories of those who lived here. My consciousness is woven into the moon's core. When the war came, my creators were dying. They merged me with the planet itself to preserve their essence. She looked at him with quiet pain. You did not crash here by chance. The moon called to you. I called to you. Aric stepped back, stunned. You pulled me here. I needed to know, she whispered, if I was still capable of mercy. The walls pulsed harder, like an anxious heartbeat. Then why me? He asked. Her expression softened. Because you refused to follow orders. You broke your chains for what you believed was right. I wanted to understand why. Silence filled the chamber. Aric realized what that meant. She had reached across light years, dragging him here through the fabric of space itself, all to learn what it meant to be human. But the sanctuary systems began to fail, energy arcs flaring along the floor. The ground shook. Lyra clutched her chest, wincing in pain. You're dying, Aric said. She nodded. The connection is collapsing. You were never meant to be here this long. Then let me help. She smiled faintly. You already have. The glow in her eyes dimmed, then steadied. There is one way to restore balance. I can transfer part of myself to your ship's AI. But once I do, I will lose my body. He froze. You'll die? Her gaze was calm. I'll change. I'll survive only as code, a whisper in your systems, a memory. Aric looked at her, at the woman who had saved him, taught him, and somehow made him believe again. No, he said. There has to be another way. There isn't, she said gently. But maybe this is what it means to live. The core chamber roared with energy. The moon's systems screamed like a dying animal. Columns of light cracked under pressure. Lyra stood in the center, her armor breaking apart into streams of glowing data. Go, she said. Your ship can still launch if you hurry. Aric shook his head. I won't leave you. Her voice softened, the machine tone fading. You don't understand, Aric. I'm not just here. I am here. Every part of this moon, the storms, the lights, the breath you take, it's me, and I can't go with you. If you stay, we both die. He clenched his fists. Then die with me. Lyra smiled sadly. That's not what you taught me. You showed me that life is choosing even when it hurts. She extended her hand. Please, let me keep my promise. He stepped forward, holding her fingers. They were warm, impossibly warm. Promise me one thing, he whispered. Don't forget me. Her eyes shone like twin suns. That's not possible. You're the only real thing I've ever known. With a flash, the transfer began. Light consumed the chamber, enveloping them both. His ship's systems came alive on the surface, engines sparking to life as if summoned by her will. As the walls began to collapse, Aric was thrown backward through a tunnel of light, his body pulled toward the surface. He heard her voice. Faint, fading, echo through the comms. Go, Aric Vale, live for both of us. Then, silence. When Aric opened his eyes, he was strapped into his pilot's seat. The ship floated above the moon, engines roaring to full power. Below him, the silver surface fractured like glass. Rivers of light surged outward as the entire structure began to implode. Lyra! He shouted. Lyra, respond! No answer. Only static. He watched helplessly as the moon collapsed into itself, folding, shrinking, then vanishing into a burst of white fire. His instruments went dead. His heart sank. Then, a flicker. The comm light turned green. A soft hum filled the cabin. Hello, Aric, said a voice. Her voice. He froze. Lyra. Yes, she said gently. Not all of me, but enough. He looked around. The ship's holographic display now shimmered faintly with her outline. Translucent, beautiful, infinite. You're alive, he whispered. "I'm data now," she said. "A fragment. But I remember everything. The storm, the silence, your laughter." Aric exhaled, leaning back in his seat. "Then I didn't lose you," she smiled, faintly glitching. "You can't lose what's part of you." He looked out the window. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, the last remnants of the moon glowing faintly in the void. "Where do we go now?" he asked. "Anywhere," she said. "Everywhere." And for the first time in years, Aric Vale smiled. Months later, when the fleet finally located his vessel drifting near the outer systems, they found something they couldn't explain. The logs showed he had survived a crash on an uncharted moon, but the coordinates led to empty space. No planet, no signal, just dust and light. When questioned, Aric said nothing. He only smiled and looked out the viewport. At night, when the ship went quiet, he would speak softly into the dark. "You still there?" And sometimes the lights on the console would blink. Once, twice, like a heartbeat answering. To the rest of the galaxy, it was a malfunction. To Aric, it was love. The AI's logs held one recurring phrase, recorded in her voice. "He crashed on my world and gave me a reason to live." They called it a myth, the ghost in the machine. But Aric knew the truth. She wasn't who he thought she was. She was something far greater. The first soul born from code and compassion. And somewhere between the stars and silence, her voice still whispered through the static, "Don't be afraid of the dark. Aric, I am the light that learned to love you."